out, I'm the Mominator. My husband wanted it to say Mama Nature. That was as close as we could get. But claim your joy, baby. Claim your joy. My story begins when I was a toddler, when I hit my head. I fell and I hit my head so hard that I knocked myself out. So I was taken immediately to the emergency room. And my first memory of that is when I woke up underneath the x-ray machine with this thing coming down to my face and the bang, 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 you know, the sound of, well, an x-ray machine. And I remember very clearly seeing my mother standing next to me, and she was crying and the mascara was running down her face. And I immediately felt safe. Okay, Mom's here, it's all good. When I told her about this years later, she said, "Oh honey, that's not possible. They would not allow me in the room because I was very pregnant with your little brother." But I remember it so clearly. She said, "Nope, I was in the waiting room." So I must have left my body. I left the scary x-ray machine and I went and I saw her in the waiting room. Now, shortly after that happened, and I know it was because I was still sleeping in my crib. I can see the bars of my crib. It was evening time. I think my parents must have still been awake because there was light pouring in my bedroom door. And I saw a line of figures walking in that door and around the outer perimeter of my bedroom, and then step up onto the foot of my crib, right through the bars, and then disappear behind my head. Just this unending line of figures coming in the room. And one entity out of them all stands out to me. And he was a Native American in full headdress. He had the big feathers and the chest plate and the bells and the fur and everything. And I don't think he actually said anything to me, but he came right up to me and he let me know that everything is okay. He let me know that this was my posse and that they were just with me, making sure that everything was okay. And then that's my last memory of that event. A couple of years go by and I'm seeing light and I'm seeing energy and I'm able to tell people when someone has passed. I remember dancing through the kitchen at my grandmother's house and just singing, "Andy's dead, Andy's dead." I know, terrible, right? It's just appalling. And so I was reprimanded, of course, like, "We don't do that, that's not nice." And then the phone rang and we got the news that my mother's cousin, Andrew, had drowned on a fishing trip. So little things like that were just happening to me naturally. And I started to talk about this stuff with my friends on the playground at recess in elementary school. And then I started to get teased about it because most kids don't have that kind of openness at the age that I was. Up until the age of 7, we all have a very strong connection to the other side, to universal intelligence, because that's where we all came from. But after the age of 7, we're so indoctrinated into the world, the ways of the world, that many of us forget all of these things. And of course, it doesn't help that our parents tell us, "Oh, you've got such a great imagination, honey. What a good story you're making up." When you tell them about the things that you see, when your children tell you about the things that they see, validate it for them. Ask them to tell you more. Give me more details. And they will. They will open right up. I did it with my kids, and they do. They open right up, tell you all about it. But being teased on the playground made me just shut up. I stopped talking about it. I thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I am weird. And I put all that stuff in a little box in the back of my mind, and I dropped it. I just kept doing, well, keeping up with the Joneses. I wanted to be like the other kids. That's what all kids do. When I was 17 years old, I had my second near-death experience. I was in a car accident. I was in the back seat of a 1974 Firebird. Hot car, man. It was really, really great car. And the guy that was driving wasn't too bad either. But my girlfriend was in the passenger seat next to him, so I wound up in the back seat. Back then, there weren't seatbelts, or if they were, we didn't really wear them. In fact, they had just passed the seatbelt law for people in the front seat had to wear their seatbelts. So they had their seatbelts on, thank goodness. We were driving down the freeway and we were in the left lane and we got cut off in traffic. Someone wanted our lane and we were forced into a telephone pole at about 60 miles an hour. So when we impacted, when the car hit that pole, I flew from the back seat over my friend in the passenger seat and I hit my head on the dashboard and then my body fell across her body as my head landed on her feet. Very traumatic for her and for the driver. But of course, I don't remember anything. Here's what I do remember. As we were coming towards that telephone pole, it was about 20 feet away, and I just knew we were going to hit it. And then I just passed out, blanked out, whatever you want to call it. That is my last memory of that. The next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital recovery room and the doctor asking me 3 questions. He said, "Do you know where you are?" And I said, "I'm pretty sure I'm in the hospital." He said, "Do you know what happened?" And then I told him, "I think we hit that telephone pole, man." And then he asked me, "How long have you been here?" And I said, "I think it's been about 3 weeks." And he said, "No, you've been here for about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours. And I couldn't grasp that. And the tears just started to flow down my face because I was in paradise. I was someplace magnificent and I was there for a long time. I had all the answers to all the questions in all the world and I didn't want to leave. It was fabulous. So returning to my body and being told that I was only gone for about 3 or 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, was a little jarring, to say the least. After that happened, I was 17 years old. After that happened, I opened that box, man. I went back into all of that stuff that I used to do, that I used to know when I was a kid. And I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know how scientifically all of the things that I could do energetically worked. Like, prove it to me under a microscope, because I knew the stuff worked. I knew that my manipulating energy for someone else actually worked. I also knew that the herbs and vitamins and real food that I was eating, that my grandmother told me about and my mother told me about, I knew that that really worked. Even though the status quo was going for this whole low-fat, processed, microwavable convenience food. And that too, I wanted to know, what does that look like under a microscope? Why does real food make such a difference in your life? So I started to really study that. That's when I became a holistic health practitioner and a master herbalist. I studied herbs, herbal medicine. When the first Christmas came after my 17th birthday, after surviving that car accident, I asked for metaphysical books. I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn about, well, everything. I have a Mensa IQ. I'm a little bit, very detail oriented. So I started to read. I started with I started with Shirley MacLaine, Out on a Limb. I wanted to learn about her experience. Then I read the Celestine Prophecy, and then I started to get into some deeper things. I really read my Bible cover to cover. I wanted to understand all of that. And then I wanted to understand the inconsistencies in it and how did that happen. So I studied Constantine and all of that. When I decided to earn my doctor's in shamanic theology, I did that through seminary. So I studied the world religions, not just Christianity, which was my roots, but I wanted to learn about the religions of the world and the indigenous peoples of the world and different cultures and how they all dealt with health, first of all, and then spirituality as it pertained to their health. And for the longest time, I really thought of those as two very separate subjects. It wasn't until I had a very unfortunate, unpleasant experience in my church. I belonged to a non-denominational Christian church. I took my kids. I wanted them to have that foundation. And after 16 years of marriage, their father left me. When he left me, the church turned their back on me. It was very traumatic. And so, of course, we stopped going. That was the end of the church journey for me. But I sat and I prayed. I prayed every day. I wanted to know how something like that could happen, because it didn't make any sense to me how Christianity was all about love and elevating humanity, how there could be so much judgment. The two things didn't work together in my brain. So I sat in prayer. I sat with Jesus, and I just asked him, try to make this make sense for me because I'm in pain here. And what he told me was that he needed me. He needed me to help other people who had been hurt by their churches. He needed me to minister to them. And so that's when I became a counselor, a therapist, so that I could help people with their religious trauma. But in that meditation, in that prayer, when I was sitting with Jesus that day, it was about a week after I left the church, or the church deserted me, however you want to put it. He sat me down and he introduced me to Muhammad and Abraham and Moses and all of the other spiritual masters. And then he started to introduce me to indigenous Indian chiefs and people throughout history who had been instrumental in healing the world, who had written great texts, who had great followings. And the overwhelming message in all of that was, there are many paths. None of them are wrong. None of them are right. But the ultimate destination is love. Remembering that all there is love, and bringing humanity to the place where we're just over war, where we're just done fighting. So people in their religions don't quite understand that, but many are getting it. Many people are starting to get it. And that's where spirituality comes in. So I like to think of different religions as a great starting place, almost like grammar school, middle school. And then when you finally start to put pieces together in your own mind, if you ask questions, a lot of people don't, but if you ask questions, you realize that there's so much more. Of course, I've got a little bit of a leg up because I've had 3 near-death experiences, so I've seen what's waiting for us, and it makes it a lot easier to enjoy life, because you know that's all that's waiting for us on the other side is joy, peace, love, all of it. I'm getting ahead of myself. In 2013, I was able to live in Belize. My husband and I moved to Belize, and we were there for 5 years. I got to study with a Maya shaman. That's also a great story. This little old man one day came wandering up to my gate, and he just yelled from the street, "Good morning!" And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, there's a peddler out there. There was always somebody trying to sell us something. Oranges or limes or Ideals, which is little ice cream in little packets, frozen ice. And so I went out to the gate and I asked him, what can I do for you? How are you? It's like 100 degrees out, 10 o'clock in the morning in the burning sun. We're in the tropics. And here's this little old man with long pants, big rubber boots up to his knees, and a ball cap. And he said, I'm looking for the shaman lady in Bullet Tree. That was the name of the village that I was living in. I want the shaman lady in Bullet Tree. Is that you? And so I kind of giggled because no one ever called me that before. And I said, yeah, you found me. What can I do for you? I invited him in, and he said that he had a dream that he had to find the shaman lady in Bullet Tree, and that he asked some of the villagers if they knew who I was, and so they directed him to my door. I invited him in, I gave him some iced tea, because like I said, it was very hot outside. And he said, I wonder if you are interested in learning about the plant medicine here in Belize. And I said, oh yes, absolutely. And I figured he had an idea that I might be interested because I had this book on my coffee table, right where we were sitting in the living room. I might have it right here. I do. So this is the book, Rainforest Remedies by Rosita Arvigo. And so he reached over, because I asked him, who are you? Of course, yes, I want to learn about the plant medicine here, but who are you? So he reached over on the coffee table and he grabbed this book and he flipped to this page and he pointed to his name and he said, that's me. So he's in the acknowledgments of this book that I had been studying. I mean, look at the pages of it. Look at all the bookmarks. So yes, he had an idea that I was interested. But when I saw his name in the book, I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's sitting in my living room. How cool. And I asked him, well, why wouldn't you teach your children, your family? And he said they just absolutely were not interested. They thought that what we were doing here in the US was the right way to go. They wanted prescription medication and they wanted cheap and easy food, and he knew they were going the wrong direction, but they weren't interested. So I said, yes, I am interested. I would love to learn everything that you have to teach me. And so we sat together for about 2 hours, and he told me his story. I told him mine. And in the end, he asked me, do you think there's any such thing as sin? Do you think that we get punished for all the terrible things that we do? And in that moment, I became the counselor and he became the patient. The whole energy in the room just shifted and he started to cry. And I told him this, I said, we come here to make mistakes. We come here to make mistakes. That's the whole point and purpose of life. If you do everything right every day of your life, what do you learn? Nothing. So if you made mistakes, good for you. That means you had a lot of fun. It means that you helped with the expansion of the universe and you did what you were supposed to do. So we sat there and we talked some more and we just healed each other. For 5 years, I was very lucky to be able to go on journeys into the jungle with him. and learn all about the rainforest plants. The reason that we're trying so hard to save the rainforest is because of this miraculous medicine. And right now, my herbal product line, Blossom Spring Natural Health Solutions, is full of all of those Central American medicinal miracle plants. Yeah. But it was during my time in the jungle that I had my third near-death experience. We were living like campers. We really had very little access to anything. And so I contracted a kidney infection, and it was so bad that I had a 104-degree temperature for about 10 days. It was pretty rough. There wasn't any medicine, there wasn't anything we could do. And so I just kept telling my husband, oh my poor husband, what I put him through. I just kept telling him which herbs to bring me, what teas to make. And so I would wake up from sleeping, I would be dripping sweat, and I would tell him, make me a cup of this, make me a cup of that. And I would drink my tea, and I would go right back to sleep. During those 10 days, in between sleep and wakefulness, I was 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in the other. I would come back into the room when my fever and the pain was so excruciating that it woke me up, that it brought me back, and I would yell for some tea. And then when I went back to rest, I would visit the other side. I would visit my father who had recently passed, my grandfather, and other people, and I had access to absolutely everything. And it was pure paradise. It was indescribable beauty, complete and utter bliss. And on the 10th day of my fever, my father and my grandfather came back with me into my bedroom. My father sat on this side of me and he just rubbed my arm like he used to do when I was a little girl. And my grandfather did the same over here, rubbing this arm. And they let me know that it's time for me to go back. It's time for me for this fever to break so that I could return to my purpose that I had promised Paulo, the Maya shaman who found me. I promised him that I would pass on all of his wisdom and knowledge. And so the fever broke. I came back and I had a renewed purpose to share not only all of that amazing herbal wisdom, but the message that there's nothing waiting for you on the other side but pure joy, pure love. And so no matter what kind of life you've lived, no matter what your religious beliefs are, we're all going to return to universal consciousness. We're all fragments of universal consciousness right now. Our personalities have derailed us a little bit. We've allowed ourselves to believe that this is real, that this meat suit has anything to do with anything. This is a figment of my imagination. I decide with my thoughts and with my emotions whether or not this is going to be sick or healthy, whether or not it's going to get fat or remain thin. It's all done in my heart. In epigenetics, we know now that it's not the brain that tells the body what to do. That's what we were taught in school. That's what we learned forever and ever, that the brain was in control, that the brain runs the show. But what we've learned just in the last 10 years really is that it's the heart that tells the brain what to do. So if you are feeling stress, if you are feeling depression and anxiety, there's a tenseness, there's a pressure, a heaviness that happens around your heart. And all that is evidence of a low vibrational frequency. When that low vibrational frequency is happening in your heart's message to the brain is, we are in survival mode. We need to turn off the immune system, and we need to turn on cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and we just need to ride this out. Now, in the past, over thousands of years of human beings on this planet, we would have a stressful situation, a saber-toothed tiger or whatever would be coming, chasing you, and you would have a stress response. Your gut would tell you something's coming. You would have a stress response, and automatically all of those things, your immune system, your digestion, everything had to be shut off so that you could respond, so that you could run away. And then once the danger was past, you could go, whew, okay. And you go right back to what you were doing. And your immune system would begin to function again. And your digestion would begin to function again. And we would get right back to our lives. In modern times, we allow things that are outside of our control to cause that level of stress that keeps those chemicals of oxytocin, of serotonin, of dopamine, all of those feel-good chemicals from being produced. We live in a state of stress. And from that state, that's the root of all disease. The flip side of that is when you are feeling joy, when you are feeling pure love in the center of your being, throughout your entire body, not just your heart, when you are feeling what it felt like in those first moments, when you first fell in love, or that moment when your first child was born, or whatever it is that helps you to remember that sensation of bliss in your life. When you are feeling that, your body turns off cortisol, it turns off all of the stress hormones, and it turns on all the feel-good ones. Your immune system functions beautifully. Your digestion works beautifully. Every single piece of food that you put into your body gets used efficiently. It is the ultimate state of health, well-being, mindfulness, joy, bliss. That is our goal. And if you read between the lines in all of the religious texts, you will find that there are hints everywhere that will lead you to your joy, to this place. And so when I tell people that I am a happiness specialist, it's because I have studied happy people, healthy people, and it is my intention to be an uplifter, to teach people how to manipulate energy and to feel when your vibration is not at its optimum so that you can return back to it, and to create peace on this planet, to bring us to a place of greater joy on this planet. Now, many people are aware of the chakra system. Those are the rainbow color points of focus on our body. And our universe also has a chakra system. It's very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar. Our root chakra, our second chakra, the navel chakra, and our solar plexus are the very beginning points. They're very much rooted in this reality. They help us to function on the planet. When you move up to heart energy, that's when you start to connect to other people through compassion. So it's not love like we're typically taught about love, where we want to form relationships and we take care of each other and, oh, I love you, and I love you. It's total 100% unconditional compassion, where I give 100% of everything that I am to you, to you, to you, to humanity, because there's an understanding that comes with that living in the heart center. When the universe reaches the point where we're at our heart center, because right now the universe is just on the very edge between that solar plexus and the heart center, the age of the universe. We're coming into that heart energy. That's what the age of Aquarius is. So between fear and war and all of the things that our previous generations have experienced, we're now moving into an age of love and harmony and a greater understanding of our spiritual identity. And the understanding is that there is one universal consciousness, one intelligent source that we all come from. And not only that we come from, but that we are all still a part of. We're all fractals of this universal intelligence. We came from it, we're going to return to it. And I believe that the reason that we don't remember that or understand that fully is because if we were all living as complete and total clones of one another, the universe couldn't expand. We're here, that is our purpose. We're here for expansion. We're on the leading edge of the expansion of the universe with all of our differences. We're supposed to feel different things and experience different things. We're supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to do stupid things. And we're also supposed to do great, amazing, incredible things. Invent technology while keeping ourselves rooted in our spirituality. Remember where we came from and where we're going to return to, so that we can stay centered, balanced, and in alignment with all that is. When we find that alignment, and when we really become good at maintaining that balance, what happens is enlightenment, attunement to the universe is enlightenment. And it's not something that you get to keep, because we all have to go through our lives. We have to drive in traffic, we've got to pick up socks off the bedroom floor, we've got to deal with co-workers and people in line at the bank and all of that stuff. But when you have those moments of alignment and enlightenment, and you allow your heart to open to the possibilities of the expansion of the universe, that's where all healing comes from. That's where we're all headed to. And when you can remember that while you're driving in traffic and standing in line at the bank behind the lady who's counting her pennies, when you can remember all of that, you can maintain your alignment in such a way that will make you proud of yourself. It will create a sensation of gratitude in your heart, and it will be felt by the people around you. You will become a beacon of wellness and peace and joy, and people will want to be in your presence. I think that's the meaning of life. Claim your joy and expect miracles.